Welcome to the City of Hawaiian Gardens City Council meeting. Offering an invocation at the start of a public meeting is an American tradition that goes back more than 200 years. City of Hawaiian Gardens wishes to continue to honor this tradition with an invocation offered by our local community leaders, churches, religious representatives, etc. City of Hawaiian Gardens welcomes the participation of all segments of our community in these invocations. However, the City Council, its employees, and its representatives do not advocate any particular religious faith or statements of beliefs, if any, as reflected in these invocations. If the pastor could please come forward and lead us in the invocation tonight. Please stand, everyone.
Let us all pray today. Heavenly Father, who are in heaven, we thank you for the great privilege that you are giving us for being here today. We ask you, Lord, to bless our city, bless our families, and bless the City Council members of the City of Hawaiian Gardens. Give upon to them wisdom and understanding, for everything they do will be according to your mind and will. We put everything into your hands. On Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. We have the Turner High School Student Council. Please come up.
Please join us. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now be seated.
Roll call.
Councilmember Director Gomez.
Here.
Councilmember Director Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Director Bruce.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chair Member Canada.
Here.
Mayor Chair Member Farfan.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay. Presentations. We do have a presentation tonight by Pop Warner Football and Cheer to provide information regarding the $5,000 donation as required by the city's donation policy.
City Council, thank you. Once again, my name is Dan DiCristofaro. I am the president of Pop Warner here in Hawaiian Gardens. I'm here to fulfill the requirement with the monetary donation that's in policy right now. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through a little bit of what we did in the past 11 months or so. If I remember correctly, I need to keep this under 5 minutes, so I'm going to do my best. First of all, let me go ahead and get this started. This was our team last year that, for the first time in Hawaiian Gardens history, took our league and went a little bit further. That was the cheer squad and the football team that went to the Orange Bowl, which is almost like our mini Super Bowl, and went a few games beyond that on their role on the road to the national title. They did very, very well. The girls in their own competition also earned a lot of experience, and that's being reflected this year. This is the picture of the girls. They did a fantastic job last year in competition. And once again, this is last year's squad. I just wanted you to get a little bit of a history onto Pop Warner. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention to you is that Pop Warner, unless you're in it, you don't realize it's actually a 12-month program. The Scholastic Awards that you're seeing here take place every year in Knott's Berry Farm, and this acknowledges all of the scholar athletes that we have in our program. This, for example, is a Platinum Award winner here from Hawaiian Gardens, and in order to do this, he has to get a 96th percentile or higher on the way to a 4.0. This gentleman had a 4.0, and he was one of the gentlemen from Hawaiian Gardens. He has a cousin now that's going to Hawaii University, and he's there on a full ride. So this family is setting a very, very high tone for their kids, and we like to see that. So we like to see that remembered as much as we can. This is another one of our winners from those awards ceremony at Knott's Berry Farm. This was a gold winner. Now the gold has to be over 93%, so it's still a very high straight A student. Not easy thing to do. Now the reason that I put this one on there is not because I'm in the middle of it. On the left-hand side, the gentleman that's there did such a fantastic job in his scholarship preparedness and everything that he did with not only his paperwork but with his grades throughout the year, that he went to England over the summer for 6 weeks. It was a fantastic opportunity for him, and I think it really sets the tone at 9 years old to be able to go to England and study for 6 weeks. So we're not just football. And this is how we prepare for our season. We get together, we have a good time, and we go in the parade. It's just that simple. We love being in the parade. We love being in the carnivals. We love doing everything that Hawaiian Gardens is all about, and that's exactly what you're seeing here. This is that cheer squad that I just showed you, and their cheer mom. Just having fun at the parade. That's exactly what we do when we're preparing for the seasons. Obviously, we're very, very proud of everything we've done. Now, this was preparation for the carnival, and this is one of the things that we do best as an organization. We get together, we eat. That's one of the best things that we do as a board. Now, going into the season, this is what's called Jams Camp. This is something that every single cheerleader has to do, and you'll notice that she's standing on the shoulders of some of her friends with no gear. I don't know a whole lot of guys that would do that. Okay, but the girls have to do this every single year, and it's a three-day process that they have to do in order to be able to cheer. Now, this was a very, very important junction for us this year, because this is when our cheer coordinator came up to me and said, you know, Dan, we've got 9-10 girls on this squad. I want to make them into a dance squad. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's kind of like making a football team into a rugby team in the middle of the season. It's not an easy thing to do. I gave her the okay, and you'll see in a minute just how well that went. Now, this is our Mighty Mites cheer squad. These are the little girls, and they're getting ready to cheer for one of our many, many scrimmages throughout the year. And obviously, when we hit the ground running. This is one of our football teams on their way to a great season. We had our flag team did very, very well. They had a great time. Our Mighty Mite team was excellent this year. For a bunch of 7, 8, and 9-year-olds, they played like the big boys. I mean, we had, some of the high school coaches that were watching were very impressed with what they were seeing, and that's really going to be reflected in the high schools in the next couple of years. This is just a little more football pictures. Another thing that we really, really try to introduce to every single football player that's out there, get your dad not only on the sidelines, but get him on the field. We can teach him how to play football. It's not that big of a deal, but we want him out here with you. And that's what we do, not only with the dads, but with the moms, especially with cheer. And that's what we're really, really building, is not just the scholastics, but the family environment as well. Now, this was cheer competition. This is the ladies' version of a football game. They did very, very well this year. As a matter of fact, that dance squad that I told you about took first place, which is saying a lot. The first year in dance, and they took first place. So they are now going on to regionals, and they're going to be in Arizona in 2 weeks, representing Hawaiian Gardens. Should they do well there, not that there's any pressure on them, should they do well there, they'll be in Florida in 3 weeks. So they're doing absolutely incredible for this being their first year in dance. And this was, if you can believe it, our football players at the cheer competition. They were actually cheering the girls on, having a good time, making sure that they came up number one. Now, like I said, our young guys this season had a great, great season. By our rules, they're typically have to stop by November 1st. There's only one other team that we had that didn't go on. This was another one of our older teams that once again became league champs. We took the core group that was there last year and built upon that, and we have a bigger team this year. They were league champs again. Once again, they went on. They played in Tesoro High School last Saturday. They're going to be playing in El Centro this Saturday. Should they win there, they'll be going to Arizona. Following that would be Florida. So obviously they're doing very, very well, and we're doing a decent job with the support of the community. It's making all the difference in the world. Putting these boys together, getting them on the field, and getting them to have higher aspirations. I'm sorry, just got over a cold. Than just playing football. It's just that simple. And here's the beautiful thing. Both the dance team and the football team, we don't know when it's going to end. It's just that simple. They could be going to Florida and beyond then. It's just that simple. The dance squad actually has a competition to go to in the end of January. And after that, once again, would be the Little Scholars. So, I mean, this is one of those things that happens throughout the entire year. And with your support, it's made all the difference in the world, especially with the new stadium coming up and us having to relocate. So once again, on behalf of Pop Warner, we'd like to say thank you very much for everything you've done. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Are there any questions from council?
Well, I think, Dan, we should be thanking you. Obviously, none of this would happen without your leadership, and you've always come up here and been a gentleman and well-spoken, and we can tell by your presence that that you mean what you say and you do what you say you're going to do, and you're to be congratulated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and it'd be nice to get that cheer squad here some night to just do one.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be great. Good luck to them. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it seems like there's definitely a lot of talent that you're fostering and creating in this city, and we're hoping that some of the talent will continue on to the high school level. Unfortunately, the local high school hasn't had the best of luck this year, and so we're hoping you could feed into that program with all the youth that you're really taking to the next level. So,
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
yeah, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, oral communications, items on and not on the agenda. This time reserved for members of the public wishing to speak on items on and not on the agenda, except for public hearing items. This period to be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Maximum time allocated is 15 minutes. Upon conclusion of oral communications, city council or city staff, at the direction of the mayor, may respond to any questions or statements that are presented by members of the public. City council is prohibited by law from discussing or taking any action on these items presented during oral communications that are not on the agenda. Those of you wishing to speak, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Irma Hurtado. I live on 12312 223rd Street. You know, I feel sad to come and sorry to come and say about what happened around to the members here. Now, we're talking about the Brown ECLA. I want to know what's being done about it. Mr. Omar said it was broken by 3 members of the city council. Now, I want to know what we, the community, can do about that. What you did was wrong. You do need to apologize to the new members that we brought in. We brought them in, and you were supposed to treat them right and equal. But what you did, you say you had a private party, and then it turns out it was an important meeting. You didn't let them know about that? Or why is it that you didn't want them to know about that meeting? What is it that you have to hide? That meeting, it was for 3 council members that created a meeting, and you did not include the 2 members, the new members of the city council. Why? You did it behind their backs. You were hiding behind them. In other words, you did a very sneaky thing. That's what you did. And here you say you want to work with them. And the mayor knew about it, and the mayor said he was okay for them to go. And then yet, he didn't do anything or say or stop to stop the situation that created that. He said he was late. Okay, did you do anything about it? You knew it was going to cause a problem, and yet you didn't do anything about it. And you are the mayor. And then on top of that, to call the policeman, I'm sure you guys laughed about it, and you had your fun with that. And where do we get 5 police cars? We don't have 5 police cars. I've only seen 1 or 2 around the area. Where do we get 5 police cars to show up for that one place? What was said to have 5 policemen coming at one time? You know, I watched the cable. I watched them in both language, English and Spanish. I watched them over and over and over, and I'm trying to understand what this city council is trying to do. The other thing, what is the other Daniel Roa had to do with this meeting? I want to know all this. I'm going to be watching the city council real close. I'm going to let the people know, the community, you need to come out and speak out too. We voted in 2 new members, and we have
10
to protect
seconds.
them too. Now, we do want you all to work together. We want that.
Thank you. Your time's up.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. Derek Alatorre with South Coast Air Quality Management District, 21865 Copley Drive, Diamond Bar. Came by to make a couple of announcements, AQMD announcements. One is just recently, AQMD has been awarded some grant money from Department of Energy for a demonstration project to replace medium duty vehicles. This is an opportunity for cities and private fleets to change out some older, more polluting vehicles for a newer, it's actually a plug-in hybrid medium duty vehicle. What it is there's 2 classes of cars. They're both Fords. One is a Ford F550 and the other one is an E450. And what AQMD is going to do is basically subsidize 50% of the cost of this new vehicle and all of the equipment that's required for it, because it is a plug-in. It's a demonstration project. These are not readily available on the open market, these types of plug-in vehicles. There are companies that we're contracting with to change over these vehicles into plug-in hybrids. And this is a great opportunity to get these older cars, or older vehicles, like I mentioned, off the road and less polluting. The last announcement it's called the Check Before You Burn program. During the months of November through February, is a lot of people tend to use a fireplace a lot. During that period of time, about 10 tons a day of emissions are coming from fireplaces. What we're asking residents to do is to check on our website before they turn on their fireplace and make sure it's not an unhealthy day. If it's a healthy day, obviously they can go ahead and burn. But if it's an unhealthy day, we ask them not to burn because it just creates more emissions. A couple things that we're doing. One is we're offering residents the opportunity to, we will subsidize the cost of switching over their wood-burning fireplaces to gas-burning fireplaces. So I believe about $150 of subsidized monies that we'll give if people switch out their fireplaces. And lastly, again, as I mentioned, if they can just go to our website, www.aqmd.gov, to check and see what the air quality is for the day. We'd appreciate if they not burn on their fireplaces on unhealthy days. Any questions?
What's the general cost for these vehicles? What's the estimated cost?
For the F550, we're going to subsidize about 50%,
Right.
and that includes not only the truck itself, but also all the equipment, the charging stations. It's a plug-in powertrain. The city's portion or the private fleet's portion would be about $100,000, and we kick in another $100,000.
Okay.
And if you go with the E550. I'm sorry, the E450, that would be about $75,000. That would be the cost for the responsible entity, the fleet, and then we pick up the other half.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right.
Any other questions?
Can you give your website a little bit slower?
Sure.
So that the community can copy it down?
Sure, it's
And I can.
www.aqmd.gov. G-O-V.
Thank you.
Okay, I know I speak fast. Thank you.
Celia Gomez, 12429 Farlow Street. Excuse my voice, but I've got a little bit of a little asthma here. I'd like to ask about the graffiti that I've been noticing around the city on the windows of the businesses. The graffiti on the walls and fences, I mean, that's taken care of. You never see hardly any graffiti, and I applaud the guy that does the graffiti. He's done a wonderful job. But now I'm seeing the graffiti on the windows. Is there any way that can be taken care of? Because it seems like every time I go out, there's another business with that graffiti on the windows. So if you can just check into that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We will. We'll have Ernesto look into it. So.
How you all doing this evening? Looks like you're doing just fine. Hello, Hawaiian Gardens. My name is Robert Prida. I live at 125 East 221st Street. How many homes, 70s homes out there, from what I understand, are they available or are they being worked on? There's about 5 homes that the city owns, as far as I know. Anyway, somebody come up and asked me that people are living there. Do you guys know anything about it? That the city owns a couple of homes and the people are living in there. They wanted me to ask about that, so that's all I know about it. I just wanted maybe you guys can find out or know what's going on or give some of these people an answer. Because like I said, they just approached me about 2 days ago that the city owns a couple of homes and people are either living in there or they're not living there. I don't know which, but it's one or the other. They wanted to know if you guys could check about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to take an opportunity to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close oral communications. Would anyone on council like to respond to any questions or statements that were made by the public at this moment? Councilmember Gomez?
To Mr. Prida's question, I'm sure that if there's somebody living on homes that the city owns, that they're not supposed to be there. So I'm sure we'll double check the properties that the city owns. The city has purchased properties in the past to build low-income housing for the community. And unfortunately, at this time, things are put on hold because of the state economy. We can't do anything with them, but we cannot rent them out or allow people to live on them for a bunch of reasons. So we'll definitely check and make sure that they're, the conditions around there are safe for the neighbors.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes, I think we have over 22 properties in the city that belong to the city. As far as people occupying them, of course, we know that they shouldn't be there. Maybe Mr. Colombo would like to address that. What have we done in the past? I know we had that problem before.
Basically, our public works crew would basically board up the homes. to make sure that nobody would be able to enter into their property, though. A lot of times they do, usually from the back where it's not visible from the right-of-way. When it does get reported to us, we go and visit the property and go with the sheriff's department and investigate and see what's going on.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bruce?
Rosie Gomez, regarding the window graffiti, yeah, I know that's a real eyesore, and it's a big problem. It seems like they're getting these acid pens and writing on windows, which destroys the window. There are windows that you can get that have a special covering on them, and that helps prevent that, and basically would peel off the outer covering of the window and put up new covering on the window. But once it's on the glass, there's really nothing you can do about it except to remove the window. And that's why you see that they're not being taken out, because those windows, some of those windows, I know the ones on our building are like $500 a piece to just replace the window. So it's a big problem. It'd be nice if the stores selling those pins would lock them in cages or something. But still, people manage to get a hold of it anyway. The best thing that we can do is to alert businesses about the coverings that you can get for your windows and make those more available to them. Regarding Irma Hurtado's comment on the Brown Act violation, I assure you that is not just laying dormant. Something is being done about that. And I, too, am very disappointed with our council members' response to the public on that, and apparently not being one bit sorry about it. I think most people in the public don't even know what a Brown Act violation is. And so it gets said from up here, and people don't even realize what that means. And so, Omar, if you would, please explain in as short form as you can, what exactly is a Brown Act violation, so the public can understand it.
That's normally an hour of...
But you're so good. That's why we renewed your contract. You're so good you could encapsulate it. Basically, just give the basic reason for the Brown Act. Why is it there, and what is the purpose of it?
Well, basically, the Brown Act, it's a law that requires that decisions of the City Council be made in public, and that the public has an opportunity to participate in notice of proposed action by the City Council. So the Brown Act requires the agenda that we post 72 hours before. That's what provides the public notice of the items that are coming before the council, that the council will be considering. And it requires that discussions about the items on the agenda not be had outside of a public meeting, such as the one today.
So basically, it's to make sure that city government stays transparent for the community. So the community is forewarned or informed about what is happening in the city so that they can have the opportunity to attend. And it's also to keep council members from violations that would cause the people to not be informed, or to cause other council members not to be informed. And the violation that took place was of course something that I think we should be concerned about. We want a transparent city council, I think. I think we want a city government that is on the up and up and working the best they can with one another. And I think, Irma, you should be upset about it, and I think the community should be upset about it. And I think that when somebody violates that act, I think the least that they could do is apologize to the community for it, which they did not do. And so that's the only reason that I am taking it further, is because I see that there's a smug attitude towards the public and to council members that were offended. And, there's no concern. And that bothers me. I think there should be a concern. You've heard me say many times, that we don't want to be like the city of Bell. Well, this is what I'm talking about, people. I'm not saying that we're just like Bell, but I'm saying the same kinds of non-transparency that's going on and that people think they can get away with that are in office is wrong, and we should not accept it as public, and it shouldn't be accepted by other council members as well. So something is being done about it, Irma, so thank you for your concern.
Councilmember Canada? No. Okay. Just touch upon transparency. City of Hawaiian Gardens fully believes in that, and that's why council meetings are actually on the cable. They're actually as well, there's a follow-up, and they're on the internet. In addition to that, the council has also taken the lead in which we're providing our council meetings that are now translated in Spanish, because we know that the vast majority of individuals within our community speak Spanish and understand the Spanish language. So I think that we're definitely taking strides to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible. We also posted agendas on the website in advance so that the community knows exactly what's going on. So the efforts are being made. No system is perfect, but I think we've definitely taken quite a bit of strides in order to get as transparent as possible. In addition to that, the budget is on our city website, as well with all the salaries of all the employees and everything like that, so everyone knows where the money's going. So,
and these things are all very good, but the Brown Act violation can occur outside of a city council meeting as well, as this one did. It's something that all of us council members are told how not to violate it and what we should do to make sure it's not violated, both in council meetings, in closed meetings, as well as meetings that are off the campus, so to speak. So we need to be careful about every aspect of our life as public officials, and that's what has not been happening.
One of the problems with that Brown Act violation was that you cannot have 3 council members meeting outside this chambers, because that creates a forum, and so you can only have 2 council. You can have 2 council members together, but you cannot have 3 outside meeting at somebody's home or any place like that. We can meet in the events. You can have 3, you can have 4, as long as there's an open event like we have here. So other than that, I think that was the violation that was created that day.
Yeah, I do want to clarify that there are exceptions to the agenda and meeting requirement, and I think we went over that when the item was agendized. There was follow-up to that meeting. It was on the agenda and it was fully discussed at that time. There are provisions for attendance by majority of the council at social events. There are provisions for attendance at other board meetings, for example, planning commission or a meeting of another city council, adjacent city council or state legislature. The issue is whether a majority of this council meets at a different location without an agenda, without inviting the public to discuss specific items of business that should be done at a meeting like this one, where an agenda is posted and properly agendized. So we did have follow-up, we did have discussion. Council does get training. Actually, state law requires ethics training every 2 years. So we do have processes in place to make sure that the Brown Act and all the other requirements for participating in as a legislative body and as public officials, we keep up to date on those ethics laws.
Okay, we'll proceed forward with agenda organization. This is time for the City Council to discuss any changes in the order of the agenda. Would any council member like to pull any items or reorganize any items at this particular time? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed forward with public hearing. Conduct public hearing and adopt resolution number 092-2010 to approve a special use permit, case number 10-046 SUP, to allow the use of a billiard parlor in an existing suite in a commercial center located at 12209 through 15 Carson Street. Staff report.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. We have Mr. Rafael Garcia, who's a planning intern, who's been with us for a little over a year and a half now. We want to give him an opportunity to get some experience in presenting reports here. He has been doing a lot of good work for us, and he's going to present this report on the pool hall tonight.
Good evening. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Farfan and members of the City Council. The item before you tonight is a request for a special use permit for a pool hall in an existing building located at 12209 through 12215 Carson Street. The commercial center where the business is proposed is located on the northeast corner of Norwalk Boulevard and the Carson Street intersection. The business is proposed in a 2,000 square foot building and will include 6 pool tables, a counter area, an ancillary food area, and restrooms for clientele. Tenant improvement upgrades are anticipated to uplift the interior of the suite. The sale of alcohol is not proposed as part of the project, nor is formal food service. Proposed food service will be ancillary in nature and will consist of prepackaged food items. The property has a zoning designation of C4 with a general plan land use designation of general commercial. Under current zoning regulations, billiard parlors and pool halls are permitted within the commercial zoning districts with the approval of a special use permit. Adequate parking exists on site to accommodate the business as proposed. However, it is staff's understanding that the applicant intends to apply for a minor exception to reduce the required number of parking stalls at the site. Should the request be approved, the maximum number of tables could be increased by 6 tables. 5 of the tables would be a result of the minor exception, and 1 additional table would be a result of the 2 additional parking stalls that exist on the site. Furthermore, the applicant has informed staff that if the minor exception is approved, he would lease an additional 1,000 square feet of space, which would increase his total from 2,000 square feet to 3,000 square feet. Pursuant to Chapter 5.08 of the Hawaiian Gardens Municipal Code, the special use permit process includes a fingerprinting of the applicant by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The investigation included a background check of the applicant and found no reason to deny the proposed project. The business is proposed to open daily. The hours of operation are located on page 5 of the staff report. No one under the age of 18 will be permitted in the business unless accompanied by a parent or guardian. The project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA Guideline 15301. The Community Development Department staff finds that the proposed business will not be detrimental to the public, health, safety, and welfare of the city and its inhabitants, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. The Community Development Department therefore recommends that the City Council adopt the resolution approving special use permit 10-046. There is one modification. Condition number 21 of Attachment A is being modified to read as follows. The maximum number of allowed billiard tables shall be 7 based on the current parking availability. Should a minor exception be applied for and approved by the Director of Community Development to reduce the parking demand, the number of tables shall be 12. Furthermore, the applicant shall be allowed to obtain 1,000 square feet of additional tenant space should the minor exception be approved. That concludes the presentation. Staff is available to answer any questions that the public might have regarding this item.
Thank you. Do a motion for public.
Yeah, motion to open public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Public hearing is now open. So if anyone would wish to speak on this topic, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Samin Kim, My address is 16401 Grand Avenue, Fairflower, California 90706.
Good evening, Council. My name is Lino. I'm here to assist Mr. Kim.
Would you speak a little louder, please?
Good evening, Council. My name is Lino. I'm here to assist Mr. Kim. I'm his attorney to assist him with, because he is limited in English. So,
Just that.
sorry. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm here to assist Mr. Kim because he is very limited in English skills. So if there's any questions that he cannot answer, I will address the council.
I'll open up to council. Is there any questions at this particular time that you would like to ask the applicant and his attorney?
Can you explain the parking? You're going to waive a certain amount of parking?
The minor exception is an application process that allows an applicant or a project to deviate from the zoning code. Depending on the nature of the project, the deviation could be 10% or as much as 20% for certain projects. For instance, something like a building height, setback requirements, whether it's rear yard, side yard, front yard. Those types of standards are allowed to deviate according to the Hawaiian Gardens Municipal Code by as much as 20%. For parking, a project is allowed to deviate by as much as 10%, assuming that the project were to be approved by the Director of Community Development.
So you're saying that as of now, there's not enough parking, and that's what we're deviating to allow him to...
As of now, there is enough parking.
Okay.
What the applicant is proposing is that he would apply for the process, which is the minor exception. He would increase the number of pool tables. With the pool hall use, it's a little bit different from your conventional commercial or even restaurant use. Usually when you calc out parking, you calculate it by the number of square footage for the building. For a pool hall use, really the square footage of the given tenant space, it becomes a little bit irrelevant. The only reason I say that is because parking is determined for a pool hall by the number of pool tables. As proposed, as of right now, the project is compliant. It is in compliance with the current Hawaiian Gardens parking standards. What he would do with the minor exception is he would increase the number of pool tables, which would make it, it would no longer be in compliance with the standards. So with the deviation, it would basically grant a maximum of a 10% deviation from this code, which would allow him to have additional tables.
Thank you.
You figured that according to 2 people per table.
That's
right?
correct.
Why not 4 people per table?
That's a provision that's stipulated in the Hawaiian Gardens Municipal Code. It's actually in the zoning code. We have a section in our zoning code that strictly regulates and provides standards for the number of parking. So for instance, for your typical restaurant, you're usually going to have to provide 1 parking stall per 100 square footage of restaurant space. So if you have 1,000 square feet of restaurant, you're going to have to provide at the very least 10 stalls. For a pool hall use, it's determined that 2 parking stalls are necessary for every pool table, basically. Because of that, the applicant has proposed 6 pool tables. The 6 pool tables, as of right now, is in compliance with our current development standards. So as of now, everything's fine. We don't determine the parking standard. The parking standard is already stipulated. It's basically in the code.
Mm-hmm. Is the LA County laws concerning smoking cigarettes apply to a pool hall? I know you can't smoke in restaurants in LA County. How does that work for a pool hall?
I believe they would have to comply with the 20 feet distance.
20-foot distance from what?
From the entrance of the billiard.
So you can't smoke in the building?
Right.
But you could smoke outside the building?
Right.
But you have provisions for no loitering, right?
That's correct.
And then I noticed there was also no new telephones could be installed. Does that mean there are telephones installed, or no telephones, period, can be installed? Public telephones. That was number 23.
That's one of the standard conditions we use throughout our development projects to deter crime and drug dealings that usually occur at these public telephones that are installed outside of the project area. So I'm not aware of any public phones there now, but generally we have that as a standard list of standard condition on projects.
Joe, this particular site, there was a pool hall there.
That's correct. This is the former site where the Billiard 2000 used to be, and they're occupying the same site. It's right next door to CVS.
Can you refresh my memory? How many tables were there?
I don't recall how many they had, but they had a lot more than 6.
That information could be provided. We just don't have it as right. We do have the file. We could definitely go through it. It was, from my recollection, it was more than what the applicant is currently proposing. That's all I can tell you as of right now.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant themselves? See none? Okay. We're going to open up to the audience, see if there's anyone else from the general public that wishes to speak on this topic.
Good evening. My name is Eli Mishia. I'm a landlord's representative on 14 South Beverly Drive, Beverly Hills. I want to first of all thank the city and thank the staff for the work they've done here. We've had this okay. Shall I repeat? My name is Eli Mashiach. I'm a landlord's representative at 410 South Beverly Drive, Beverly Hills, California. I wanted to first thank the city and the staff for the work they've done on this case. The landlord really appreciates any help on the side of the city here. We've had this site as Councilman Canada stated, occupied by another pool hall in the past. It's my recollection that there were, I think, over 13 tables in that facility. It was a bit of a shabby operation that the last operator ran, and the present operator is a professional. He knows what he's doing. He's actually planning a trip shortly to Korea to bring his new tables in. Everything is professional grade tables, and obviously something to provide the people in the area with a little bit of entertainment in their free time. There is no alcohol, so there is no problem in that instance. And we basically would like to encourage the city to help us out in approving this project and in approving the parking exemption that he's going to take upon himself, so that we can establish a good business for the operator.
All right. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this topic? If not, I'd like to see a motion to close public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. So at this time, if we have any further questions.
Yes, I have just a couple of comments on that. Nothing to do with the pool hall resolution. This is for the development department. I think we should have more time to look at some of these projects. 2.5 working days sometimes is not enough for something that might be more important than this. Did this go before the Planning Commission also, or did it not? Or did it require the Planning Commission?
The application before you tonight is a special use permit. The special use permit basically it's only required to go in front of the city council, not the planning commission.
Because the reason I asked that is because there's a bar over there on Centralia right next to the VFW hall, and it was closed for a long time. And the rumor was it was closed because there were some illegal activities going on in there. And then I visited the VFW at the beginning of the year, and the bar was open. And I don't remember anybody bringing it before the city council since I've been here. Maybe before, maybe it was. What I'm trying to bring is that I think the city council should be notified of some of these applications from businesses prior. And also, I think the city council, I'm not speaking for the city council, but for myself, I think that we, or I, or all of us, should get a monthly report or a bi-weekly report on the number of applications to the city for commercial use and the approvals and disapprovals of those permits. I think that's good information for all of us, so we can know what's going on in the city as far as the business community, and so that we can have a better business community or make it easier for our businesses to come in and not complain. There has been many complaints by some of the business owners. They're not getting full cooperation from us. So I think we should know how many permits are being applied and how many were rejected, how many were accepted. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that information is provided monthly in the packet to the City Council. I'm not sure exactly how it's structured, but we'll take a look at it. But we provide a monthly report, and for all of our divisions, like we do for code enforcement, housing rehab, commercial rehab, planning, Section 8, all the various. But I'll take a look at the one for planning to see how it's structured and see if there's any way we could, if it has to be modified or not. But we do keep the council informed of all activities in the department.
But you do not have, you don't actually give us the information of how many permits were rejected.
Like
how many were applied and how many were rejected and how many were accepted, so that we can know ahead of time that when you bring a resolution like this, we know ahead of time what it is about. And I think, some of the planning commission should be involved with some of these.
Yeah, this is this application is regulated by Chapter 5 of the Business License section. It doesn't involve the Planning Commission. It's a business regulatory permit. The approving authority for a business regulatory permit is established by the municipal code, and only authorizes the City Council to be the reviewing body. And like I said, on the other issue, I'll check to see how it's structured. But we do notify the council of all the different applications that we process internally.
What about the new tire store that we just popped out of nowhere? I just went by one day and there it was, a brand new tire store there on Carson Street. I had I didn't know anything about it. I don't know about the rest of the city council, but all of a sudden it just comes up. I don't know whether it was part of your monthly report.
Yes, it was. There was a minor use permit approved by the community development director, and it's in the monthly report. The automotive uses require minor use permits. But perhaps what we could also do, since you mentioned business licensing, I'll have to check with the finance department, because they're the ones that process business licensing, to see if there's a way to notify the council on the different new businesses that come in town, or perhaps the ones that the closeouts and the new ones. There's additional activity that occurs in the finance department on new licenses that are issued and ones that are closed out, and perhaps we can give you that as well. But that would be coming from the finance department. The planning department role, or the community development department role, is basically just to approve the land use authority over the licensing. But we could look into that as well.
Joe, how long has that billiard place been gone? How many years now?
It's been gone quite a long time. I believe she was having problems with paying the rent. I believe the rent was increased as well, and she couldn't keep up with the rent. I don't recall all the details, but she had come to us to try to help out, but to find an alternate location, but she couldn't find one. So we never had any problems with that billiard hall at all.
I know.
From a city standpoint, we have not had any issues. I've also had staff to look into any calls for incidents from the sheriff's department. So there hasn't been any problems at all with the billiard hall at that location that we're aware of from a land use point of view.
Okay.
But I will try to accommodate Mr. Councilmember Ronaldo's request and look into the businesses and see what we can do with the finance department end of it, because it's all software driven. So let me look at that, see if it can be done, or what type of formatting. But we do provide monthly reports, and we'll look into that, sir.
Okay. All right, great. So we need a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item B, ordinances. Oh. Okay, as amended, so. All right. Item B, ordinances, none. Item C, consent calendar. Items listed on consent calendar are considered routine and will be acted by one motion, one vote. There'll be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, the item may be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered separately. Would anyone like to pull any items from the consent calendar at this time?
I'd like to pull resolution number 095, 2010, and 096, 2010.
And I'd like to pull C3 or 094, 2010.
Wait, C2 or C3?
C3.
Okay, that one's, it's been pulled already.
Oh, is that the one you just
Yeah,
pulled?
Ray pulled.
Oh, 95 and 96. Okay.
95 and 96 have been pulled already.
Okay. That's it.
Any other items? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the remainder of the calendar in its entirety?
One question before we move. One of these items is the one where Councilmember Bruce has to recuse himself. So if we approve
That's
it
true,
in
yeah.
entirety, or do we take this one separately?
The Essapor.
On that one, he doesn't need to leave the room, he just needs to abstain.
Oh.
So for the Essapor item, if the record just shows that he abstained, so his vote won't count for that one.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mike. So do we have a motion?
Yeah, well, what I'll do is I'll make a motion to approve that one on its own, correct, first?
You don't need to pull it from consent.
Okay.
The
So,
record just needs to reflect that he abstained
okay,
on that one.
then a motion to approve everything that wasn't pulled.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. C3, adopt resolution number 095-2010.
C3.
2010 to approve a professional service agreement by and between the City of Hawaiian Gardens and Englander, Kanabe, and Allen for public relations services. Staff report.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. What you have before you today is a professional service agreement for public relations services by Englander, Kanabe, and Allen with the City of Hawaiian Gardens. Englander and Kanabe and Allen has provided public relations services to the city since 2008. Since the inception of this engagement, the public relations firm has developed a public relations strategy and has worked with city staff in the following areas: crisis communication, counseling strategies, and has worked with city staff and has provided 24 hours, 7 days a week services, media training for key city staff and elected officials, public speaking training, speech writing, press release preparation, and public affairs. Currently, the city does not have a public information officer or staff that's strictly dedicated to public relations. Hence, the services provided by the PR firm are essential to accomplish the city council's goal to promote the city in a positive light and branding the city. This is a large undertaking and is an area that requires consistency and experience in the media field. The proposed agreement is for a 3-year term at the city's council discretion to terminate this agreement at any time, providing Englander, Knabe, and Allen a 30-day notice. The monthly retainer for public relations services is $6,500 per month. The recommendation staff is making is at city's council's discretion. The fiscal impact is $78,000 per fiscal year, which currently has been budgeted for. For your review, attached is the Resolution 095-2010 and the proposed agreement from Englander, Knabe, and Allen dated August 26, 2010. This concludes the staff report, and we do have a representative from Englander, Knabe, and Allen here to answer any questions that you shall have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. I'd like to open it up to council if they have any questions. And I believe Ruben is here to address those questions.
Okay. I was looking at your, let's see, let's go to page 74. It's on. Can't hear me? All right, page 74. We have your layout basically of what is provided as a service to the City of Hawaiian Gardens. And you know, we had a meeting not too long ago where I had some questions for you guys regarding being proactive about the kind of service that you provide us with. And I still have those same questions. I don't feel personally that you've been proactive in our publicity. It says that your primary objective would be to continue to help the City of Hawaiian Gardens proactively. Meaning, you know, you are alerted to possible things that could happen in the city, you're alerted to how things could play out, and you are contacting us. I would think that being proactive would be changing the city's image as far as developing articles and things like that so that we could get it out in the Press Telegram, different places, maybe positive articles on Hawaiian Gardens. I still see predominantly negative articles every time the name Hawaiian Gardens is mentioned anywhere. And I would think that proactively speaking, that your organization would be sitting down with us and saying, hey, look, we need to fix your image, and here's some things that we can do to proactively fix your image, and here's a packet that we have put together. We would like to get your staff on board to do this. As far as I know, this has not happened. It's almost left up to us as to figure out how we want to change our image and what we want to do, and then we alert you. I think you should be alerting us. I really do. So that's one concern that I have. Another concern that I have is you say that you will provide crisis communication counseling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I recently asked for instead of just a retainer agreement of what we pay you every month, I asked for an itemized list to tell us what have you done 24/7 for us. What kinds of calls have you intercepted? What kinds of articles have you written on our behalf? So that I could see some sort of a record of what Englander, Knabe, and Allen has done for us. And I haven't been able to get one of those. All I get is what we're paying monthly. I know what we're paying monthly. I know what we're paying yearly. But I want to know itemized. What are you doing for us? I know it's listed here, and it sounds very impressive, but I need to see it. I need to be able to get my hands on it, my eyes on it, and be able to see, okay, well, they did this, that, and the other last week. They did this week. Speech writing services for key city staff and elected officials. I would really like to see an itemized speech writing list. Who did you write speeches for? When did you write speeches? Because this kind of information tells me Englander, Kanabe, and Allen are doing a lot for us. Simply getting a bill and paying a bill every month does not tell me that you're doing anything. I need to see it. And that's what I asked for twice from staff. I never did receive it. Their response to me was, Englander, Kanabe, and Allen have to provide that information for us. We asked for it, but we didn't receive it. That was what I got back. Create messages and tools to inform key audience, residents, neighboring cities, employees, media outlets, other governmental institutions of the positive work of Hawaiian Gardens. I haven't really seen that. I think there's a lot of positive things in Hawaiian Gardens. A lot of those positive things get put in community news, but I never see them popping up in Press Telegram or other bigger papers. I think it should be, again, your job to be alerting us to new ideas for positive PR and assisting us to create a new city image, which I think Hawaiian Gardens desperately needs. Providing content and input on the ongoing revision of the website. Again, I'm not sure how much you've had to do with that. I know we have a new website up, but I don't know how you have worked in connection with the person that provided that website service to us. And draft and place news releases, stories, and interviews. Again, I think we have a lot of positive things going on in Hawaiian Gardens. I think we should see more of them popping up in the paper. You talk about your approach here on page 75. As we renew our relationship with the City of Hawaiian Gardens, we recommend the following approach. Have planning sessions with the city manager. During planning sessions, the city would work together to identify and prioritize key targets and identify key relationships. These are all good ideas, but I just don't know why they haven't been happening as of now. I think it's a lot of money to pay. I have always been of the thought that we should have our own PR people in-house. I think our own PR people would have a better handle on the city. And maybe that's what's been happening with your organization. You're removed from the city, and you are relying on individual staff to give you information about the city. And that's why I think it would be best for us to have a PR person in our own city who is more aware of what's going on in the community and can actually work with the community in a more hand-to-hand sort of a way. I mean, we are a small city, and I think it would be fairly easy for somebody to really, if they had a position like this, to be more proactive in the kind of publicity that we're getting. So these are a lot of concerns, obviously, that I have, and I did express them to you. I think it's a lot of money to pay, and I would just like to know that if we're going to continue to employ you, that we would see a lot more resulting from what we're putting out. And I just don't see it. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me or disagrees with me on this council, but this is my feelings and my concerns. Would you like to speak to any of those things or correct me? Or if I've been unfair, if you feel that I've been unfair, then please, share with me why. These are just my concerns.
Oh, well, Councilman Bruce, so you're obviously welcome to your concerns and your opinions as you see the facts before you. And we could spend a lot of time is this not on? Can you hear me? Yeah. We could spend a lot of time disagreeing. We started this contract several years ago, and at the beginning we did, as we proposed in this approach, is we created a planning session and laid out goals and strategic directions we wanted to go in. And I think the three council members who are on since that time have taken advantage of our services and have seen that we have had an effect. But I look forward to working with you going forward to change your opinion of how we've endeavored to institute this current contract as we go forward. And if, as the concerns you have raised, I see them mostly as communication issues and possibly management issues of the contract, we're happy to provide the information you need to feel comfort with this. And as stated in the staff report, the city can end this contract with a 30-day notice. So if you feel like those goals and thresholds aren't being met, then you have a way to deal with that.
Is there any way that we can get a itemized list of services on a monthly basis from you, rather than just a receipt for the retainer?
Yeah, we can track our regular activities.
Yeah, I would appreciate that, because that would help me to see things a lot more clearly. I understand that, you're not writing speeches for me because, I'm not the mayor, but it would still be good to see, just a kind of a listing of the kind of responses that you're helping people with in our city.
And I'd be happy to write speeches for you. All you need to do.
Are there any questions for Ruben? at this
Ruben,
time?
I have a question. I know for many years we've always had negative press from the Press Telegram. If you were to report the positive things, is it up to their discretion and decision whether to put that in the paper?
Yes, what goes in the paper is up to their discretion. What we have tried to do, and we think over the arc of the 2 years we've been here, you can see a market different from prior to those 2 years. We've been able to kind of step in the way and play a little defense to keep certain stories out of the paper, to make sure that the Hawaiian Gardens position on those stories has actually been a part of the story, when in the past hasn't been evident there. But also some of the very positive things that you have done as a council have been covered and have been the result of specific pitches to the Press Telegram and other news outlets. And even as recently as this week, we, along with other staff and the mayor, met with the senior editor for the Press Telegram, as well as other staff, to discuss how going forward we can have an even more fruitful relationship to provide them with the kind of information they need to put Hawaiian Gardens in the light that it should be shown in.
Okay.
And I believe it was a positive meeting and will be effective going forward.
Thank you.
You may want to provide an update during council reports on that meeting.
Okay. Are there any further questions at this time? No? Okay, then do we have a motion?
Well, I just, it's not questions to the Kanabe firm, but of course you know that I kind of cringe on the monetary part of this. $78,000 per year. I don't have anything that I don't blame them for anything as far as the cost goes. But what I do think that why did we not solicit requests for proposals or bids for this amount of money? We should. And I know you're going to say that the city council before us previously approved a resolution where you wouldn't have to send out for proposals for any services pertaining to engineering, city attorneys, legal attorneys, and so on. But I think we as a government should be obligated to make sure that our taxpayers get their money's worth as far as our services. We should, as far as I'm concerned, we should send out for proposals for any services that is over $50,000. And that's mainly for our taxpayers, to get the best service for our taxpayers. So hopefully maybe in the future we should change that resolutions where we can send out for proposals for some of these services that go all the way from $70,000 to over $100,000. I feel that the taxpayers are not getting a fair deal on their money. Thank you.
Do we have, does staff have any idea of what it would cost to have somebody in-house to do this kind of a service for us? Even if it was a part-time sort of a position?
Well, we have looked at it in the past. It's been a couple years. But one of the challenges, and I'll address the part-time issue, is, I mean, if we're going to take on a good, proactive program, I mean, a part-time person wouldn't be suffice, in my opinion. As a matter of fact, when we originally met, Englander, Kanabe, and Allen recommended, well, why don't you guys hire your own, PIO? And at the time, we did explore that option. I mean, we were looking at staffing costs of roughly $100,000 a year. And not only that, you're adding the benefits, et cetera. So when you take into consideration all the costs involved, the cost was up there. So at the time, the council opted to hire the consulting firm. Personally, I do believe, our meeting we had just recently with Mr. Bruce and the PR firm was a good meeting. We kind of set some standard and set the stage to be a little more proactive and have a plan to move forward. So hopefully we'll be able to get that off the ground and inform you all of all the activities that are taking place.
See, my feeling with that meeting is that meeting should have been called by you guys. You should have said, we need to figure out some ways to really get Hawaiian Gardens in a better light. And then you should have met with us and said, hey, Ernesto, we need to meet with council and have a brain session on what we can do to improve the image. But instead, it was me, who's a council member, asking a firm that should have already been proactive to have invited us to have that conversation. And that's my big concern. I'm not a publicity expert. None of us are. And so we shouldn't be coming up with the plan. You guys should be coming up with the plan and getting us on board. And so that was my biggest concern and is my biggest concern. And I still think it's a good idea to have our own person in-house. But I can understand what you're talking about because, the costs could be very prohibitive. But maybe we can work some things out and see a lot better response from the media on our behalf in the future if we really work hard at it. I hope so.
So if there's no further questions. If there's no further questions, I just want to say thank you, Ruben, for being here and answering those questions. So do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For the record, I'm abstaining on that one.
Yeah, and I think I'm inclined to say no at this point.
Okay. All right, item C4, adopt resolution number 096-2010 to approve the amendment to the moratorium of understanding by and between the City of Hawaiian Gardens and the American Federation of the State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, Local 3624, Council 36, Non-Management Chapter, adding the classification of crossing guards effective April 19, 2010. Staff report.
Good evening to the mayor, members of the city council. My name is Howard Caldwell, and I'm a labor relations consultant for the City of Hawaiian Gardens. The resolution you have before you tonight is to approve an addendum to the memorandum of understanding between the City of Hawaiian Gardens and ASME Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, Non-Management Rank and File Chapter, adding the classification of crossing guard. On February 24th, 2010, Pete Snofford, the business agent for ASME, Local 3624, rank and file, filed a petition with the State of California Public Employment Relations Board to include the position of crossing guard into the unit. And in April 19, 2010, the State of California Public Employment Relations Board issued a modification order which approved this classification to the unit, to accredit to the unit. So this resolution will officially include the crossing guards into the bargaining unit. In September of this year, staff met with the City Council so that we can get our parameters and directions from the Council relative to including this position into the bargaining unit. And Council provided staff with the directions, and what you have before here is consistent with the directions that you provided the staff and myself with for to create these positions into the bargaining unit. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have relative to the amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Howard. Are there any questions from council at this particular time?
I just want to state that this is a very important resolution. The memorandum of understanding between the City of Hawaiian Gardens and AFSCME Union Local 3624. And I just want to say this is the beginning of a new relationship, as far as I'm concerned, between the city and the Cross Guards. And I'm for it, in other words. So.
Are there any questions for Howard at this moment? No? Okay. Then, being that there's no questions, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Howard. Item D, discussion items. Consideration of an appeal of the City Beautification Projects Committee's recommendation to deny rehabilitation assistance under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the property located at 12550 Carson Street, space number 94. Staff report.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, on March 17, 2009, the Community Development Department received an application for financial assistance under the Housing Rehab Program for the mobile home coach located at 12550 Carson Street, space number 94. This is a coach that had been placed or built in 1972. These programs are generally reviewed by a committee that's been established by the City Council. There are two council-appointed committee members on this committee, as well as two other staff members. The applicant had originally requested to add a front porch to the home, replace linoleum in kitchen, dining, hallway, and bathroom with laminate flooring, as well as replace the carpet in the living room and bedrooms with laminate flooring, and repair the furnace. This application had been reviewed on August 25th, 2010 by the project committee and basically had only approved the furnace, being that the furnace was a necessity, and basically had denied the rest of the request. The applicant did appeal. I believe the applicant is here today. We could have the applicant come forward and present their case before the City Council, but basically this is a policy decision as a City Council as a whole. This is a CDBG program that's federally regulated. So we could have, like I said, could have the applicant forward and state their case. I do have some pictures in case the council wants to see the pictures again, or at least the committee and the rest of the council that have never seen them before. And I can go over those pictures as well.
It'd be nice to see those in color, because we only have black and white, so that would be helpful.
I can go through these real quick here.
Just to open up the council, would you guys be in favor of having the applicant come forward and
Yes,
speak?
yes, I would.
Okay, all right. So we'll go through the photos first, and then if the applicant is here, if they would like to, please come forward and further discuss this.
Staff basically inspect the property again, and these are the photos that were taken as of recent. This is the condition of the linoleum, the prior pictures, current condition of the carpet. And I believe what the applicant is requesting is basically consideration on the carpet and the linoleum to replace with laminate flooring. I don't believe they are pursuing the front porch issue, if I read their request correctly. Appears to be pretty uniform throughout the motor coach, though in certain areas there appears to have been a carpet runner placed on top of the carpet, so you'll see a difference in color there. What my staff has been telling me is that the carpet basically needs to be cleaned. These are all the photos I have. The applicant should be here to answer any of your questions. Would you like to come forward, please?
I am the applicant. My name is Sopronio Adarlo.
Can't hear.
My name is Sopronio Adarlo, and I am the applicant for the grant we are talking about. I sent this body a letter. It's a request that my carpet and linoleum be replaced because it was approved, but only the furnace, which is not my priority. The furnace, I never use it. I never use it anyway because the vents are on the floor and it poses danger because some of the vents are close to the outlets, wall outlets, where electrical cords are plugged in, and also close to the bed where the blankets and bed sheets are hanging down above the bed. So I never use it. Instead, I'm requesting for replacement of the carpet, and the bench will be totally closed.
Mrs. Orfino, I noticed that the coach was built in 1972, according to the report here. How old is the carpet and the linoleum that's in there now? Do you know?
I don't know. I have no idea.
How long ago did you purchase the coach?
I'm sorry, I have.
How long have you been living in the coach?
I have been living 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah, 2 years.
And what would be the cost for the repair of or replace? I understand you just want those items replaced with some type of laminate flooring.
Yeah, generally, as you know, the mobile homes are eligible. I believe it's up to $5,000. So $5,000 is more than adequate to cover expenses such as the linoleum and the. Though he hasn't, we don't know exactly what type of laminate flooring he's asking for, though. So, I'm not sure on the cost of but if it was being replaced with carpet and linoleum, I'm pretty sure that would be under $5,000. I'm not familiar with the laminate because he did request laminate throughout the entire coach. So, my gut feeling would be it would be under $5,000, but I'm not positive. The furnace, If it's not working, that is a code requirement. That's heating. That is required. I believe what he's talking about is there's vents throughout the coach, and rather than coming from the ceiling, they're coming from the floor. I don't think that poses any hazardous condition there. They may just, blowing. But if it's not working, I mean, that's something that can be repaired, hopefully, and we're not sure yet the condition on that, but he's choosing not to get it repaired, though.
So for the grant to be in effect, don't you have to fix code violations in order to do any other work?
Yeah, I believe the furnace should be repaired, being that technically that is a code violation. And in a sense, if it's not working, I mean, it may be just a matter of fixing what's there, not necessarily replacing that.
So staff doesn't think that it would cost that much to fix the furnace?
No, generally they will make sure that they repair furnaces and AC units before they replace them. They could easily replace the blowers and the burners and all the electronics that go with that. So generally they are repairable. But we don't know for sure, but I dealt with insurance companies, and when they have to pay, believe me, they will not replace anything. They will find parts for it.
Excuse me, how do you keep your coach warm if you're not using a furnace?
We are using a portable heater.
I think one thing that concerns me, or I think about when I'm looking at this project and going forward, is I know that once you apply, according to the guidelines right now, you're not eligible for another 10 years. And so if, we only replace this heater, obviously the pictures look okay. We can't really tell everything, what's under the couches or whatever, but should a couple of years from now it deteriorate, and then person has to wait another 7 years before they can apply again. And it seems like we're kind of punishing somebody for just having a minor thing done and then having to wait a whole long time for the major thing, because we know that the carpets and the linoleums are going to wear out eventually. So I'm inclined to think that it wouldn't be a bad thing to help them out.
You don't forget that these grants are for house and rehab, such as roof repairs, plumbing, damage caused by water, rotting wood, water heaters.
Yeah, turn on your mic.
It's on.
It's on. Oh. Anyway, that's what these grants are for, and also the emergency grants. They're mainly to repair your home, especially the coaches. They have a problem with leaky roofs, and when they have a leaky roof, then you end up with the ceiling damage also, and plumbing, water damage on the floor, or maybe your sink or something might be falling off the wall and stuff. That's what these grants are for. If it's they're not to. What I'm trying to say is that if we were to give everybody brand new flooring, then of course what's going to keep the rest of the community for say, hey, I need a new carpet, even though it's not a damaged item. That was the reason that this was originally rejected. The reason was because so you required a floor. Is this and the inspector that went to inspect it said that the floor is perfectly okay, just that maybe the carpet is dirty or the linoleum seems to be okay also, and so that's to me that's what the grants are for.
But Ronaldo, you're saying that if the person has a leaky roof and you fix that, then they have to wait another 10 years if something else happens.
We're not addressing that right now. We're addressing his thing here. Now, what you're talking about is the guidelines. We have guidelines, and that's another subject. We're addressing on his request to replace the carpeting and the linoleum with laminated floor. That's what he is requesting, and I'm just stating what these grants are for. For instance, his furnace. We know that the furnace has to be replaced. If we had a bad water heater, we could replace that. Leaky roof, we replace that. Sink coming off, we could replace that. Any type of water damage, rotting floors, which some of these coaches have, and some of them, and they have been issued the grants. And that's all I'm saying is what these grants were mainly for. But it's going to be up to you to decide whether you want to go ahead and grant him the grant.
I'd just like to add to that. I sit on the committee with Councilmember Rodriguez, and the initial justification behind our decision was that we truly did not feel that the carpets nor the linoleum were in a condition that were damaged. They seemed that they were very functional, that it wasn't a sense that there was need for a major repair. And so based upon the visual as well as the inspector that went there, it was hard for us to justify replacing a carpet that seemed to be inadequate. What we're truly looking for in this particular program is, people that have a need, an immediate need, for things to be replaced. So, as Councilmember Rodriguez stated, maybe a leaky roof. What we're seeing also is windows that need repaired because the leaks in the windows. Maybe steps or stairs to the coaches that need to be repaired. So we're looking at items in which there's a dire need to be replaced and fixed to assist those individuals on an emergency basis. So I think that's the overall goal of the committee, to review it and make appropriate decisions like that.
So you're saying that if the carpet had big rips in it, that would be a danger to him tripping and falling, or if the linoleum was peeling up, then that would endanger him, and then it would fit under this grant. Or if the roof had leaked and there was mold in the carpets or something like that, then it would be fine under this grant.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot easier to justify that there is truly a need, because there's a potential hazard, as well as you could see deterioration in the carpet itself, and there's a need for repair or replacement. So.
And it doesn't appear that you have any rips in your carpet or any holes. Is your carpet in pretty good shape as far as that's concerned?
Some linoleums are torn on the side and the edges, and the carpet is too old. When I vacuum it, a lot of fibers goes in the vacuum.
Do you have allergies that it irritates, or do you have another household member that has allergies that it irritates them because of that?
I beg your pardon?
Do you have allergies?
Yeah.
Okay. I could see, obviously my wife has allergies, and I know that, when you have that, it's very annoying. I think maybe evidence like that might have helped a little further in terms of your justification. Maybe some additional photos that show the actual peeling of the linoleum. I think that would have helped, in terms of us making a decision.
And I suggest that we continue this item, and I personally inspect it myself. I like to determine if there's some fading in there as well. So I think I'd like to request that this item be continued, and I personally inspect the coach myself.
Yeah. How does council feel about that?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. All right. So we'll hold off. We'll have Joe actually do an inspection of your coach, and then we'll bring it back for a final decision. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. All right. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So, okay. Item D2, consideration of mayor's appointments to the Planning and Public Safety Commission. Staff report.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council, according to our municipal code, the mayor and the city council may remove or move commissioners at their discretion any time with or without any explanations or discussions, as they are appointed at will and the pleasure of the city council. At this time, you wish to move Commissioner Grant Winford from the Public Safety to the Planning Commission and move Commissioner Tracy Vance from the Planning Commission to the Public Safety Commission. Each would then complete their respective terms. And if I can give you a little bit of background, if you want a little bit of background on this?
Certainly.
Okay. Back in 2007, when two public safety commissioners became council members, there was an issue with having the meetings for the public safety, as one of the third people that was left on the commission had a problem with scheduling problem with his work, and so due to a lack of quorum, a lot of the meetings were canceled. Couldn't think of the word. We published it in the community newsletter for several months with no responses. And so then the mayor at the time, I believe it was Mayor Heckerman, we discussed asking one of the commissioners from another commission to go on the Planning Public Safety Commission so that we could continue with the meetings. And Commissioner Winford was the only one who was willing to move. He has told us over and over again that he will serve wherever the council wishes him to serve. And it was going to be a move for a short period of time, hopefully. But then we had a problem with another public safety commissioner resigning. So Commissioner Winford was left on there. Then we had two commissioners from the Planning Commission resign. So we put that in the paper also. We got people that were interested on the Planning Commission. At that time, it was going to be a discussion to ask the people that came actually for the Planning Commission if one would be willing to be on the public safety and move Commissioner Winford back to the planning. I was out of the office at the time on disability. It got forgotten. Commissioner Vance was appointed to Planning Commission, as was Commissioner Garcia. And so just recently, it came to our attention again that Commissioner Winford, this had been what the prior council was going to do, and unfortunately, it just kind of got caught in the cracks. I did speak to Commissioner Vance and ask her if she would be interested in going on to the public safety, and she said she would definitely be interested, that she feels it's an educational experience to go on to different commissions, and Commissioner Winford would be more than willing to go back on the Planning Commission if it is the pleasure of the council.
Does council have any questions this time?
I think it's pretty commendable of Commissioner Winford to have been willing to go wherever he's needed, and I think it's good that we have the opportunity to bring him back to where he would like to be. So,
and I do feel that he'll definitely be well seated on the Planning Commission. He does have a strong background and is formerly on that commission. Yeah, so I think that will assist us in terms of making decisions, and the ease of decision-making process will be aided with his assistance on there. So with that being said, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item E, new business, none. Item F, closed session, none. Oral staff reports.
Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, there was some discussion earlier today regarding graffiti on windows, and that's usually a pretty hard issue for us to deal with because it is quite expensive to deal with that. But we did find a company that actually does polishing on windows. I'm not vouching for this company, but there is a company out there called Etchbusters.com. They are local, and they will deal with removing graffiti on the windows rather than replacing the windows. So we're curious to find out how that's going to work out in the community. So that's just to add to the comments that Councilmember Barry Bruce made. Did have also an opportunity to review a monthly reports for the Planning Commission. I think they're compliant, but I will give a copy of this to Councilmember Rodriguez. And if there's anything you want us to change, we'll be more than happy to do that. But they appear to be compliant with the request.
Right.
The Human Services Department would like to invite the community to two very special upcoming events. This Thursday, November 11th, the city will celebrate Veterans Day with a ceremony at the flagpole area outside of C. Robert Lee at 8 a.m. And following this ceremony, we will invite everybody to a breakfast in Room A at the C. Robert Lee Activity Center. That's this Thursday, November 11th. And also, our annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony is around the corner. This event will be held on Friday, December 3rd at 6 p.m. In the tennis court areas. This year we'll have performances by the Ferguson Elementary School Choir, as well as the Artesia High School Band, and there will be a special visit by Santa Claus. So that's Friday, December 3rd at 6 p.m.
Any other staff reports? Okay. Oral council reports. Councilmember Gomez.
Yes. I guess I report on October 29th, Councilman Rodriguez and I attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for the, I guess you would call it the International Trade Agreement with the Zion Market and the mayor of, I can't pronounce the name, but Boreno, I believe, county in Korea. I guess they've signed an agreement to for the Zion Market to purchase products from them. It was very interesting affair, very formal, almost like a visiting ambassador to the city. So it was very well done, and they treated us with very well with respect, and we even spoke of the growing population of Koreans in our community and how that market has turned that center from a ghost town to a really thriving place, and we appreciate them being there. Also, I want to thank the staff for the trick-or-treat event. I know that I heard there was 800 bags or so made goodies, and they all left. There was about 5 or 6 of us who participated in the trunk or treat, where you decorate our cars out front, and my wife and I made 150 bags of goodies, and we gave them out in about 45 minutes. So there was plenty of kids attending, so that was a great time. And lastly, one of the things I've been able to do is sit on the Closing the Achievement Gap Committee with the ABC School District, where they discuss trying to find out answer to why the Black and Hispanic kids in the school district seemed on average to score lower on tests than the Anglo and Korean kids. Through the course of this, I happened to speak with Principal Garcia at Artesia High School, and he's told me of a study of done where they just took kids in this group and they just tried to introduce them to reading. And they actually paid them to read, and they read whatever they wanted, comic book, magazine, whatever, just read. And during the course of that study, at the end they were tested, and they all improved tremendously. So it's got me to thinking, I'm always trying to promote volunteerism in our community. So I spoke with Principal Lozano at Ferguson and Principal Olivos at Melbourne about some of the community groups that I work with, possibly trying to create a reading program at the elementary schools. And both of the principals were really open to the idea, and they had wonderful suggestions on how we can do this program. So what I'm mentioning right now is I'm looking for volunteers to come help us read to the kids and help them read. We're talking maybe an hour before, or half hour before school, half hour after school, or maybe, I know at Melbourne, they have a 3 to 6 after school program. She said we could, use that time there. So any interested parents, seniors, interested in volunteering and being a part of this program, I think whatever we can do to get our kids doing anything, get them on the right track is going to be an improvement. The kids that learn how to read, they end up learning how to read their math book better, their science books better, the health books better, and so they just become better students. So I hope with our volunteers they come forward and we'll get this thing off the ground and we can do something really good in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes, I would like to comment on the Halloween event, and that was a complete success with all those kids. And me and our council member Mike and I and Miss Hawaiian Gardens and Lynn Jones, we were the judges on the costumes. And I tell you, good thing we had Miss Hawaiian Gardens and Lynn Jones there, because they're the ones that did most of the... Oh, you was there too. No, you wasn't. You came later. But anyway, they had some great costumes, and the haunted house was exceptionally well made up. And on the Zion Market, we got a tour also of the market itself, and the amount of food, different type of foods, it was amazing in there. And their vegetables, and they have all kinds of vegetables there that I had never seen before. And number one stuff, I mean, this is great stuff, and they're a little expensive, but it's worth the money. That's why if you go down there on a weekend, you can't find a parking space in there. It's people are just going around and around in circles trying to locate a parking space. So that was a great event we attended.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on the Halloween festivities also. I didn't know what to expect when I walked into the haunted house, but it was pretty freaky. So my hat goes off to all of those who participated in it. I especially liked the idea that you had really short kids in there and really tall, freaky people. So I'd turn around to get away from a tall, freaky person, and there'd be a little person pulling on my pant leg. It was really weird. I especially appreciated the strange little child with the long-stemmed rose. So whoever that was, you freaked me out. So, so it was fun. It was a good event.
Councilmember Kanda? No. Okay, there's three things I'd like to touch upon. I believe it was yesterday, in which myself, Ruben Gonzalez, from our PR group, Alma, as well as Ernesto, did have an opportunity to meet with the Press Telegram. It was a very positive meeting. It was, right now, my understanding is that they do have a new editor that is new to the area. They used to priorly, I believe they were located in Chicago. So now is a great opportunity in which we've taken advantage of to meet her and kind of sell our story, hopefully, to her, and saying that we're open to working with them as much as possible to let them know of all the great things that are going on in the community. Like any newspaper out there, she basically told us they're looking for a very unique story. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. How are we going to distinguish ourselves from other cities? How are we going to sell Hawaiian Gardens? So I think that's something that is going to be in the pipeline, something that we all, as council members, got to remember, that if the Press Telegram is going to pick up an article or, on our city, it has to be unique, something that is going to sell, obviously, newspapers, as well as allow people to kind of pick it up and say, hey, you know what? A lot's going on here, and this is the way that they're distinguishing themselves from other communities within this region. So we're hoping to, on a going forward basis, to work as best as possible. One valuable aspect of that meeting as well is that she's going to give us a contact list of the various different departments in the Press Telegram to assure that we're sending our articles to the right people there. And it's going to be an updated list. What she said is that in the past, individuals send them there, and you have editors, writers that no longer work for the press telegrams, and so they're getting, it's being sent to an email address that really no one is checking. So I think this is some valuable information that we'll have, and hopefully get stuff out there. So in addition to that, on October 27th through the 29th, I participated in our JPIA conference. It was a very good conference. Some of the topics included risk management best practices, how to create a culture of safety, public agency, legal loopholes. Some of the main takeaways I would say in this conference were the need for documentation, just in terms of documenting incidences, things that occur. We need to engage the JPIA as soon as possible when there is an occurrence within the city. And some basic things are practice safety drills. I don't know how often it gets done. I'm not working here on a day-to-day basis, but they just said keep in mind, things are going to happen here in the city. We have quite a bit of employees. Don't forget to practice general safety drills, fire, gas, earthquake, lockdown, and to be consistent as possible in terms of our practices. So it was a very good conference overall, a lot to take away. And it's insurance. Sometimes it's not the most exciting topic, but it's something that we need to do our due diligence in and practice and make sure that we would take it serious. So that was, in addition to that, on Saturday I did get an opportunity to attend the Silver Gloves event that was held here. I know it was a 4-day event in terms of the boxing matches. And, it's always good to see our youth out there. We do have a lot of talent. And it was just good to support them. So with that being said, I'll adjourn to our next regular city council meeting. Oh, actually, there's one thing I need to bring up. I apologize before I close out. I need to get a consensus from council or their thoughts on what we should do, whether or not we should have a council meeting in late November. I know traditionally we do have the option to go dark. So if anyone would like to step up and say what their thoughts are on this.
I would recommend that we go dark.
Is everyone in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll not have a council meeting at the last week. Okay, so December 14th. So I'll adjourn to our next regular city council meeting to be held on Tuesday, December 14th, 2010 at 6 p.m. Okay, we'll recess for a moment. We need to change state. All right, so now we'll continue to the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. Agenda organization. This time is for the agency board to discuss any changes in the order of the agenda items. Would anyone like to change any items this particular time? Seeing none. Item A, public hearing, none. Item B, consent calendar. Items listed on consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion, one vote. There'll be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, the item may be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered separately. Would anyone like to pull any items from the consent calendar at this particular time? No? Okay. That being said, do we have a motion to approve in its entirety?
Yeah, and Councilmember Bruce will be abstaining from the Estepor item.
Motion to approve entirely.
Second.
Okay. All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item C, new business, none. Item D, discussion items. Discussion of a commercial rehabilitation program, application for the property located at 21302 Norwalk Boulevard, Hawaiian Gardens. Staff report.
Yes, honorable board members and members of the redevelopment agency. As you know, the agency has a commercial rehabilitation program whereby it provides 80% of the cost of the improvements and the property owner provides 20% of the cost of improvements. Up to $50,000 approved at staff level and above that before the redevelopment agency for consideration. We did receive an application from Mr. Brad Haymeyer, who owns 21302 Norwalk Boulevard. This is the property known as OK Tires. And as we look at this property, we notice that it does need some type of attention, some type of rehabilitation work, but this is not your standard type property we've dealt with in the past. So, and that's why we're bringing this before you for direction. We have not spent any money on this yet. We have not hired any architects to do any design work. What we're looking for here is direction from the city, from the redevelopment agency board, for a couple of reasons. One, because the property has a mixed-use development. It has a commercial use on it as well as a residential use, and our guidelines don't address residential use. So if the agency would want to assist this business, we potentially might have to amend the guidelines if we do address the residential component. And the other, because just the nature of the design of the existing facilities makes it not easy to come up with some type of design without having to spend some major money here. But basically, this property is located in the C4 zone, and it's considered what we call it legal nonconforming, being that legal has a business license, has been there for many years, but nonconforming to current code because it doesn't have a conditional use permit. But for the most part, the property has been operating. We haven't had any issues, although we did note in our investigation of the property there are some code violations, and you'll see in the aerial photo there. This is the property in question. This is off of Norwalk Boulevard and 213th Street, as you can see here in this photo. It's got several different type of roof pitches. You got a gable roof, cross gable, flat, pitch flat. So it's not your typical facade where you have a mansard and you just go up and you hide everything behind it. So there would be a lot of work to be done in this particular case. Not a whole lot of parking area. The program, though, does allow us to utilize funds to address asphalt, striping, trash enclosure, lighting, landscaping, stucco finish, signage, things like that. So this is a view of the side. This is the residential portion of it. There are some, let's say, minor code issues that the property owner is willing to comply with. That deals with an extension off the back end of the garage, I believe, as well as this structure as well that's located on the back end of the property. This is an aerial view of the property. This would be the residential component of the property, highlighted in yellow. And this would be the commercial aspect of the business operation of OK Tires. That concludes the presentation. Again, what we're looking for here is direction from the Redevelopment Agency Board, as we do anticipate this coming to be more than $50,000 in assistance. How far do we want to rehab this type of an operation, as well as do we want to amend the program guidelines to include residential, as this is a somewhat mixed-use development.
At this time, I'll open it up to council if they have any questions.
Is the so mainly for beautification purposes, it would be the front of the building and probably the side of the building, right, that we would be most concerned about?
Right. You could conceivably just address this portion right here and this portion, which would be the commercial aspect of it. We don't believe there's permits here for this section here, so I'm not sure we would be rehabbing anything back there anyhow, if we were just addressing the commercial aspect of it.
And then the only parking for the whole place is right there where those two cars are?
Correct. For business purposes, correct. There may be some additional parking on the side, but
That's not correct.
for the most part, I see the cars being repaired here and here on the side.
Okay. We could have the property owner come forward.
Oh,
You
okay.
could
Great.
answer any questions.
That's incorrect. The parking, that side parking is where the residents park.
Which side, sir?
Oh, where the two cars are?
That's where the residents park. That's not where they do any work.
Oh, okay.
Where they do work is at the front, the very front,
Right
portion, right there. And on the side
Right here?
is where they do work.
Okay. And the business is basically just changing tires
Tires,
and
doing-
retreads?
Yeah, I don't have any ownership of the business. I'm simply the landlord. The guy that's operated the business has rented this property from my family for probably 15 years now.
Oh, okay. So the business has been in operation for 15 years?
Business has probably been in operation for 30 years.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Let me correct that. When Kelly was alive, I think that business has been there for over 50 years.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yep.
My mom worked for him, and he left the property to her.
Because as a teenager, we used to go get our flats fixed there when we could afford it.
Yeah.
Well, I think as a city, and it fits into the beautification program, we should be concerned about the front and the side of the building. I just don't know how does a residential property fit into the overall scope of things? That's what I don't see. I don't know why we can't address part of the property, the commercial part of the property.
It's the commercial aspect of it.
And how many other properties do we have like that in Hawaiian Gardens, mixed-use properties like that?
Not a lot. Not a lot.
Like-
I mean, we don't know the
like how
exact
many?
number,
Like
but
2, 3?
I would say probably under 10, where you have a mixed-use development. But keep in mind that, again, the reason why we're bringing this to you, because part of the general plan, you've allowed to have residential uses in the commercial zone as well, so.
How difficult would it be to put a facade in front of that?
It'll be pretty difficult. First of all, we'll have to evaluate the building itself to make sure it's structurally sound to be able to accommodate any additional construction. And so that'll have to be evaluated by a contractor and our building inspector. But again, the reason why, how far do we want to go with dressing up the front of this facade, the front of this building? Do we want to just box it off? Do we just want to, repair stucco? And I believe it's a combination of stucco and siding. Do we want to redress up the outside, all stucco, do some stack stone, reseal the parking lot, restripe it, maybe try to see if there's some opportunity for some landscaping. The signage as well, which is non-conforming to current guidelines, would be addressed. I'm not sure where the trash enclosure would be. Also, we possibly could address the issue of the tires. There's a lot of tires out there. They're just being stored on the side of the property as well as on the 213th Street. So we can maybe try to address those issues as well. But it's your choice as to whether or not, it's a policy of the redevelopment agency as to whether or not you address the commercial or both. That's why we're bringing this before we spend any money with an architect and trying to come up with, some design alternatives for this property.
Well, I think the original design is for commercial only, is it not?
Well, there is a house there, and it is a permitted use as far as, it does have a building permit, so, and the business is also permitted as well. So though the program guidelines were designed for assisting commercially developed properties.
So I think sticking to the guidelines, it would be, we work on
If you stick to the guidelines, we would just address the commercial aspect of it and just deal with the OK Tire component. And try to dress up the building itself with some articulation with architectural features, and maybe some window replacement. Just trying to clean it up. It definitely would look a lot better than what it is now.
Well, the footage of that area is probably around 30 feet in depth, isn't it? If I remember right, the commercial part. The commercial part is only about 30 feet.
You're talking about the asphalt in front?
No, I'm talking about the commercial part of the building where they have the tires stored and where they do the tire changes and.
Yeah, they get about maybe 1,000 square feet of business.
It's not very big. So if we were to do something with that, I think that's where we'll concentrate, just that area.
Did you want to keep If I can go back to the previous slide. Did you want to change the pitch on the roof at all with some type of mansard, or did you want to just leave the pitch of the roof the way it is and just work with using just new building materials?
That one section where they fixed the tires there, it looks like it was just an additional. They just added to the commercial part. This is going way back, if I remember right. All they did was just added that piece there, which is probably around 10 feet by the length of the rest of the building. Are you saying that change the pitch all the way from the top down to?
Did you want it to look more of a commercial type building rather than your gable type roof? Did you want to do anything with the roof pitch at all, or did you want to just do stuck with the entire building, new windows, doors? I'm not sure what the garage door looks like or what condition it is, but anything that just looks unsightly or non-operational, non-functional, we would try to address. We'll try to address. There may be a trash enclosure back there behind that fenced area. We could also address the fencing itself and eliminate the chain link fence and maybe put something else that's more decorative, but yet still provide privacy. Slurry sealing, striping. Again, signage also helps dress up the business as well. Landscaping, we'll try, but it's going to be very limited. There's not a whole lot of space on this property, as that is legal.
You don't want to plant any palm trees there? I mean,
if I had the room, I would.
I think the best thing that you could do to that building would probably be to put a facade on it, and maybe even instead of having a sign on the actual building like it is there, to put a sign where those tires are right there, and some simple landscaping.
What we'll do is, if you give us the okay to proceed with this, when we engage in the services of the architect, we'll have them provide a couple concept drawings and then bring them back, kind of like we did with some of the other businesses.
Yeah, I think that'd be
I believe the last
most
time we
appropriate
did
thing.
that with Western Liquor. They had provided 2 or 3 concept drawings.
Now, who's the architect that does that? I mean, we have somebody specifically.
We have some that we've worked with, but we don't have anybody that we've picked yet. We would be asking the applicant to see if
prices have been pricey. Do we open bids to other architects, or how do we do that?
We do get proposals, yes.
Okay. So if somebody was to send a proposal to you, what would they do? Just
we would call, let's say we call 3-4 architectural firms. We would give them a tour of the project, and give them specifics of the project, and ask for a proposal. We would initially start out with asking for proposals to provide concept drawings rather than any type of architectural drawings or as-built drawings. At this point, we would just be working with concept drawings, which would be more of a sketch to give us some type of 3D dimensional options for this type of a building, and we'll leave it up to the architect, who's the expert in trying to come up with something nice that would be pleasing to everybody. And if you remember, that was kind of the process we used with Western Liquor, but it was a lot easier to deal though with a building that was already boxed off and squared off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've never done one with this type of pitched roof. I mean, it'll still be an improvement even if we leave the roof the way it is. But if we start dealing with the structural part, it will get costly when you start dealing with the structural part. Just by doing stucco and tile work or decorative stack stone or anything like that nature can greatly improve the appearance of this building. Slurry seal, the fence, the chain link that's there now, we can change that to something else. Providing a trash enclosure, lighting perhaps.
My only concern is if we focus only on the commercial, what's the appearance then of the rest of the building? You're going to have a nice, 2 sides of a building, and the remainder of it is going to look undone. So it's going to look like, we invested in a project and we stopped, like if we ran out of money. So that's my concern about kind of ignoring the residential aspect of it. It'd be nice to have some consistency You know, maybe we keep it as simplistic as possible, but we make, you know, at least the whole structure consistent in terms of, you know, the aesthetics. So that's just an area of concern. I mean, you guys got to visualize it. You know, just imagine half of the building looks great and the remainder is just as is, like you're looking at it right now.
Yeah, but don't forget, this program was for commercial, not for housing.
No, and that...
I mean...
Oh, we do have a housing rehab program. Is there a way they can apply for the home residential portion to be?
It's very minimal, though. I mean, it's a $10,000. I think it's $10,000 is all they would be eligible for, if eligible.
I thought there was two $20,000 grants and then a $50,000.
That's for CDBG.
Okay, you're
So
right.
I don't believe the applicant would be qualifying.
Correct.
For this particular location because we have a business involved and that's a federal program and those are for single-family dwelling units, single-family utilized parcels.
Okay.
As the owner of the property, what's your opinion?
I like what you said about.
Of course he does.
Well, and the other part of that, though, is, in my opinion, there's not going to be a huge amount of cost because if you go out there and look at the property, extending that side of the building that you're going to see, that's the residential, and putting a new, you know, maybe a stucco face to it, I think when you do that, you're not really adding a ton of cost to the project, but you will make it more finished off. The other thing that will help will be the taking away the unsightly chain link fence, because I'm sure the city doesn't like looking at that. And the chain link fence, something else more decorative is going to help. So I think if you will just extend a little bit of leeway onto the residential, you can make the whole project look a lot more finished off. So I think you really hit it on the head when you mentioned that.
So could we carry over the look of the commercial part into the residential part?
Absolutely.
So that it looks like a bigger commercial building than it really is?
Absolutely.
Or would you want it to stay residential looking?
I have no designs on any of that.
Oh.
I'm very open to ideas on the renderings from an architect, and I don't have any strong opinions on what the finished product is going to look like. So if the residential aspect of the building takes on the look of a commercial building, as long as it's usable by the tenant and the resident, who is one and the same here, the business owner and the tenant are one and the same, and he has been for years.
Mm-hmm.
He won't have a problem with it, nor would I. So.
Well, in that regards, I like the idea because it would be nice to make the building look a little bigger and more commercial. And yeah.
I think our overall goal is to make the building aesthetically pleasing. And in doing so, you know, you have to have a complete project. So.
Yeah, and I think this you make a uniform stucco, face to it would make all the difference. I see what you're saying, and that shouldn't be that much more.
It all depends on what we do, but you'll be given options and different alternatives because if you just end up going with the stucco treatment, stucco is not going to be that expensive to do the entire property or painting or whatever it may need. So it all depends on the options or alternatives you end up going with. And once you give staff the direction to start looking at some concept drawings, concept renderings, then we'll get an idea more or less what we're looking at, ballpark figure based on what we've done in the past. And is it something that we're just looking at dealing with, doing the entire property and dealing with the entire roof, or are we just dealing with the front? You're going to have different options. It all comes with the price tag, though.
Okay. Are there any further comments, questions by council?
No. What about the code violations?
And if we do address the residential, then, of course, we'll have to amend the guidelines, which is not going to be an issue, but we would bring the guidelines before you. As far as the code violations, I believe the owner has indicated he'd be willing to comply.
Yeah, I'm aware of the code violations. The code violations had taken place years and years ago, and I wasn't even aware that there were code violations until just a few years ago. And that's when I think it was George Montano brought it to my attention that this program was available. And we discussed fixing the code violations, but we also discussed this program. And I asked him if we're going to do this program, but I would address the code violations at the same time. If I'm going to have a contractor on site doing this other stuff, I would like to dovetail in with that the solution to the code violations to help me save money on remedying those things that I need to remedy. One of those is taking down that overhang structure. And I almost did it a couple of weeks ago when I was out there doing some work, and I talked to George about it, and he said to hold off. So I've agreed to take care of the code violations, but I'd like to dovetail it, like I said, into the project.
That one building right there on the left-hand side there, that was used a long time ago to do wheel alignments.
Yeah, and he used to do wheel alignments until probably 6 or 7 years ago, and then he stopped. There's a sunken well in the one building, and he has a hoist and all the equipment that he needs to do, but I don't think he does any wheel alignments any longer.
Do we have a consensus amongst council in terms of the direction we want to head?
Yeah, I believe what we talked about is having some
Concept drawings.
Yeah.
Hire an architect and get some concept drawings and bring it back for agency review.
What about the engineering? Have you checked it to see if you can? Is the structure soundly, or I mean,
Well, it all
you check
depends on
that?
how far we rehab. I mean, the building is, you can rehab the building. It's just to what extent you're going to rehab it. So in that case, it would be a building inspector that would look at it. But if you're not touching the building at all in terms of, the roof and all that, then it shouldn't be a problem. But if you're going to do substantial, remodel, then that has to be looked into. Otherwise, then that's when you get stuck with big, huge change orders, because then they start opening up walls and then they find out that things are rotted. But there's no question you will be able to rehab to some extent this building. It's just how much do you want to rehab?
Well, I hate to see this landmark go because I'm so used to looking at that since all these years, but
time for a change.
I guess it's time for a change.
A little facelift will not hurt. So, okay. So I believe we have direction, and
Yes.
do we need a motion on that?
Well, I think on the portion of expanding it to the residential, I think staff would want a motion.
So-
Or with just direction, and when we come back with the rent,
Yeah,
we could also bring an amendment to the guidelines.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, I think once we have the concepts,
Yeah, it doesn't take much to change the guidelines. So
Okay.
we just want to be able to get direction right now so we can hire an architect to start providing. But I think it's well understood that if we do the residential, we have to change the guidelines.
And we do need to realize that if any of those other 10 dual-use buildings out there are business, that we need to also carry over the same kind of...
Well, yeah, once you amend the guidelines, and it's opened up for anybody else as well. It's not just for this business.
So I think one of the options we can explore and discuss is for the board to consider these on a case-by-case basis. Because as opposed to amending the guidelines as a whole, but you and I can have that discussion.
Yeah, they can, it's all subject to approval, so the agency board can do as they please.
okay. Great. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. All right. Item E, closed session. None. Item F, oral staff reports. None. Oral agency reports. None. Okay, just a reminder that we will be having a special city council meeting on November 30th. The time is yet to be determined. We'll check amongst everyone's calendars to get a time on that meeting. So I will adjourn to our next regular. What's that? Oh, okay. Well, we're going dark, right? For our next meeting. So I'll adjourn to our next regular Community Redevelopment Agency meeting to be held on Tuesday, December 14th, 2010 at 6 p.m.